returning to Super Recaps. Today I'm going to show you Old Henry, a 2021 action drama picture. Watch out for spoilers ahead. Brannigan is attempting to flee Oklahoma in 1906 from three men wearing sheriff badges, Dugan, Stillwell, and their boss Ketchum. Brannigan is still shot and captured, no matter how quickly he flees. Brannigan refuses to confess even after Ketchum kicks him a few times and asks for the location of another man they've been chasing. Ketchum responds by tying Brannigan to a horse and dragging him across the ground until he speaks. The man they're hunting for has gone east. Ketchum then kills Brannigan instead of releasing him. Meanwhile, Henry McCarty is working on his farm with his adolescent son Wyatt. Henry grew up in New York and traveled extensively before settling in Oklahoma as a farmer. Sadly, he lost his wife to TB, but her brother Al comes to help him and be an uncle to Wyatt on a regular basis. Their lives are tranquil and enjoyable, except for Wyatt's desire to travel and learn to shoot a rifle, which Henry will not allow him to do. It's still early in the morning when they come upon a wandering horse with a blood-stained saddle and no rider. While Wyatt transports the terrified animal to the farm, Henry mounts his horse and investigates the scene, finally discovering an unconscious guy on the ground. Curry is his name, and he's been shot in the shoulder, so Henry uses mud and a handkerchief to conceal the wound. Then he discovers a rifle and a sack full of cash, indicating that there is turmoil brewing that he does not want to be a part of. He only walks a few feet away before he feels awful for the man, so he returns, picks up everything, and after removing any evidence of their presence, he returns to the property with Curry. They put Curry on a bed and tend to his wound with the help of Wyatt. Henry hides the rifle and the money sack in a concealed compartment in his closet as night falls, unconscious that Wyatt is watching him through the space beneath the door. The next morning, Henry thinks that the wound won't heal unless the bullet is removed, so he'll go to town to get a doctor. He ties Curry to the bed and places the knife he used to cut the rope on the bedroom table before leaving. Wyatt goes to Henry's closet after his father has left to investigate the hidden compartment. He takes the gun outside after noticing the money in the backpack and practices shooting at a bottle, albeit it takes him a few tries to hit his target. Curry is hearing shots in his sleep and having nightmares of his house being burned down and his family being murdered while the perpetrator urged him to keep his head down. Soon after, Wyatt comes to put the pistol back in the closet, seizing the opportunity to open a box Henry had concealed there for quite some time. He discovers another gun inside, as well as several newspaper clippings detailing numerous atrocities. On his trip to town, Henry discovers that Ketchum and his men have been following the trail Curry left behind. Because Stillwell is such a strong tracker, he can tell when someone has covered Curry's tracks. The three now know their victim is working with someone else. These men hear noises in the tall grass and open fire, but Henry is already racing away when they arrive. Back at the farm, Wyatt finds that one of Curry's ropes is a little loose, and his other hand is wrapped with a blanket. When Wyatt lifts the blanket, he notices that the rope is missing, so Curry takes advantage of the opportunity to stop pretending to be asleep and free himself. He lunges on Wyatt, grabbing the knife from the bedside table, and claims he doesn't want to injure him. All he wants is his satchel back. Henry returns at that point and knocks Curry off his son before hitting him till he loses consciousness once more. They then bind Curry to a chair and awaken him. Henry uses a hot knife to remove the bullet from Curry's wound while asking some questions, having determined that going to town for a doctor is too perilous. Curry, wriggling and sobbing in pain, claims to be a cop and advises Henry and Wyatt to flee before it's too late. The bullet is retrieved, but Ketchum and his men emerge outside the home before Henry can ask any questions. When Henry walks outside to get Curry's gun, he smells it has already been shot, so he reloads it. Ketchum presents himself as a sheriff and his deputies, then adds that they're on the lookout for Curry, a violent criminal and a serial killer who also happens to be a sheriff. Ketchum is curious about Henry and begins asking him questions about his personal life, taking a particular interest when he learns his last name is McCarty because there was a criminal with the same last name many years ago. Henry tells them he doesn't have any relatives, so it can't be one of them, and he hasn't seen someone who fits Curry's description, so he dismisses the men. Ketchum urges them to secure their doors tonight before departing. Henry then returns to the house and slaps Wyatt for firing the rifle. Wyatt was only interested in learning how to fire a weapon because he was the only boy in the region who had never been trained, therefore he had to teach himself. Wyatt criticizes Henry and considers him a worthless fool, suggesting Henry will be left alone to die since he'll leave the farm as soon as he can. Henry proceeds to interrogate his prisoner again, not wanting to think about how much it hurt. Curry says that he is the true sheriff and that the trio is bank robbers who took Curry's officers' credentials after killing them. He recovered the money but was injured in the process, so he blacked out and fell from his horse while fleeing, only to wake up on the property later. Curry has no idea why Ketchum didn't shoot Henry, but he knows they'll come back. Meanwhile, Ketchum and his men debate their options. They don't believe Henry and are perplexed as to why he is assisting a stranger. Possibly he was promised a share of the money. When Dugan asks why they didn't shoot him when they were 3 versus 1, Ketchum says that something strange is going on. He doesn't believe Henry is in it for the money, and he wasn't holding the rifle like a farmer either. Dugan will keep a watch on the farm while Ketchum and Stillwell go hire some guns and pay Elle a visit because they need some information first. It's very unsafe to stay out this late, so Henry makes Wyatt go inside before he finishes his agricultural tasks. Curry complains about getting cuffed later when Henry offers him soup. Henry quizzes Curry about his background to see if he can trust him. Curry tells him about all the people with whom he has worked and lived, names that Henry is familiar with from his travels. He also apologizes for jumping on Wyatt, explaining that he was afraid and disoriented when he awoke in an unfamiliar location. Henry's face looks familiar, but he denies ever seeing Curry and decides to free one of his hands. Then Henry sets his revolver down on the table and goes to refill his glass, hoping Curry will take it, but he doesn't. Curry, on the other hand, continues to tell Henry memories from his youth, like the time he witnessed Billy the Kid being shot. Curry had heard Billy's voice in his dream earlier. Henry ultimately trusts Curry after hearing the stories and witnessing him not grasp the gun. Curry's other hand is freed, and he is given his gun and told to leave his house before the criminals return. They don't get to talk about it any further when Dugan starts shooting at them through the window. Curry fires back, and Wyatt runs over to investigate what's going on, grazing his arm in the process. Curry passes out from his wound, so Henry gets his rifle while Dugan creeps underneath the house, shooting through the floor whenever Henry moves. After deciding on a strategy, Henry hands the gun over to his son along with some shooting tips before tossing a book on the floor to fool Dugan into shooting in that direction as he runs in the opposite direction. Henry rushes outside with his rifle and starts shooting under the house till Dugan runs out and is shot in the leg. Henry leaps on him and attempts to get him to reveal some information, but Dugan refuses to cooperate, so Henry murders him. After finding a gang mark on Dugan's skin, he feeds the body to the pigs to make it disappear. Following that, Henry attends to Wyatt's wound while deflecting his son's questions about his history. Henry can't expect to be respected by Wyatt because his father doesn't respect him. Henry goes outside with his rifle and waits for the worst after checking on Curry, who is dreaming about the fire once more. Al goes bird hunting in the morning, making it easy for Ketchum and Stillwell to locate him. They want to learn more about Henry, but Al refuses to answer their inquiries and is knocked down when he tries to defend himself. Back at the farm, Henry and Wyatt assist Curry in getting ready to go. Curry, on the other hand, can barely walk, let alone ride a horse, so he tells them to go while he finishes up. Wyatt also wants to stay and defend his house, but Henry agrees with Curry and prepares his son to go. Unfortunately, when they get outside, they're met with a horrible surprise. Ketchum and Stillwell have returned with a posse of hired shooters. Ketchum offers them a deal if they give him Curry, he'll let them escape without a scratch. Because Henry will not accept, Ketchum goes one step further and discloses that they have captured Al, who is injured and bleeding. Henry, enraged, takes out his rifle and hands it to Wyatt, urging him to stay inside and away from the window, and to only shoot if absolutely necessary. Ignoring Curry's calls for him to be handed up, Henry confronts Ketchum, who admits he isn't a sheriff and is dying to know who Henry is. Ketchum offers to exchange Al for Curry, but Henry declines, and Ketchum kills Al on the spot because neither he nor Al will divulge any information. This prompts Wyatt to emerge and begin firing, so Henry takes him back inside while the gang retaliates, hitting Curry in the leg as he approaches the window. Henry advises Wyatt to keep his head down after criticizing him for acting without thinking. Curry ultimately puts 2 and 2 together after hearing these comments that fit his dream and learns Henry's true identity is Billy the Kid. He didn't die in the fire, he just escaped. Henry pays him little mind, instead of concentrating on getting his old rifle and holster before heading outside to start firing after only a few words. Henry shoots a few gang members with unwavering aim before returning to the house through the window, allowing Curry to shoot a few men as well. As the remaining soldiers begin to encircle the home, Henry grabs a knife and exits through the back door. He stabs 2 crooks while sneaking about, then hides under the house to shoot a third. Then he meets Stillwell, who tries to kill him with his knife as well, but Henry kills him before he can even take a step. Ketchum is the only one remaining now. He hides behind the pig pen and injures Henry's shoulder, prompting Henry to flee into the woods and force Ketchum to follow him. Both men shelter behind woods while exchanging gunfire, but Henry is too quick and hits Ketchum in the thigh and shoulder. Then Henry gets closer, and Ketchum gets one last shot in before Henry finishes him off. The wounds aren't significant, so Henry returns to the farm and goes to Curry for assistance with his own injuries. When Henry rips off Curry's sleeve to examine his arm more closely, he discovers a stunning surprise. Curry has the same gang mark as Dugan, and he shoots Henry without warning. Curry didn't lie, he admits to being a crooked sheriff. Curry and his deputies had previously worked with Ketchum, but when they learned that Ketchum was preparing to kill them during their last task, they attempted to flee, and that's how it all began. Curry wants to be the one who killed Billy the Kid, and Henry is in agony but not quite dead. But Wyatt arrives and kills him before he can shoot. He wants to get a doctor for his father, but Henry says that it's too late, so he wants to say some final words to his son before he passes away. When Wyatt goes out into the world, he'll hear a lot of Billy the Kid legends, so Henry only wants him to know half of the truth. He acknowledges he hasn't always been a good person, and he doesn't believe in atonement. He's just been trying to find solace in raising a good child all this time. Henry is unsure of his position in this new world, but he is certain that Wyatt does. Wyatt buries his father close to his mother after grieving over his death. He packs his belongings and departs the farm on his horse to travel like he's always dreamed. Once he's emotionally ready. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and turn on the notifications to watch more videos like this.